The Edit page includes many tools for editing the soundtrack of your project. Depending on the size and scope of your project, you may decide to do the sound editing yourself entirely in the Edit page, including the final mix. Or you may do some basic sound work to be finished by a dedicated sound editor in the Fairlight page or another digital audio workstation. If you're following along, open the Lesson 12 timeline. This timeline should contain all the edits we've made up to this point in the tutorial. Before we get started, let's customize a UI for audio work. We'll be adding some sound effects in this lesson, so select the sound effects bin in the bins list. Then hide the list so that we only see the clips contained in this bin. Let's also give the timeline more space for additional audio tracks. Drag upward on the divider line below the toolbar, then drag on the gray line separating the V1 and A1 tracks and drag upward to create more room. Click the Timeline View Options button. Make sure Audio Waveforms is enabled in the top section and the thumbnail view is selected in the middle section. Drag the video track slider to the left and adjust the audio track height so that you can clearly see the clip's waveforms. Also, make sure you're still in single viewer mode. If not, click this button. Currently, we have our dialogue and music in place, and now we'll add our sound effects. But first, we need to identify where they need to be added. We'll be using markers for this task. Markers have all sorts of editorial uses in the Edit page. They can be used as reminders for tasks you want to complete later, or they can be used for flagging which clips or range of clips that need sound effects, color correction work, or even effects work. This trio of B-roll shots at the beginning of the timeline could benefit from some wind ambience. You'll recall earlier in the tutorial, we removed the sync sound for these clips because the camera-recorded audio was unusable. Move the playhead to the edit point of the first B-roll clip. Resolve lets you add markers to the clip itself or to the timeline ruler area above the clips. We're going to be adding them in the ruler area first. From the toolbar, click the Marker button or press M on your keyboard. A blue marker is added to the ruler area at the playhead location. To edit the marker, double-click it. In the name field, enter Add Wind Noise. Let's also change the marker color to pink to match the clip color. Then click Done. Because we need wind sound effects to cover all three of these clips, you can create a duration marker. You learned how to do this on source clips back in Lesson 5. With your mouse pointer over the right edge of the marker, hold down the Option key and drag to the right until the marker range is over all three clips. If you look at the marker overlay in the viewer, we see the name of the marker and the total duration of the marker, so we know we'll need at least 8 seconds of sound effect to cover this section of B-roll. Move your playhead over the middle of the steering wheel clip. I want to add some car interior ambience for this shot. Press M to create the marker, then press M again to call up the marker window. Let's name this marker Car Ambience, and change the color to lime green. Then click Done. Markers can also be moved. Drag the marker so that it starts at the first frame of the clip. Then Option Drag out a range. For the final marker, we'll add it to the clip itself. Scrub over the family picnic shot looking for the frame where the dog barks. Select the clip, press M, then M again to call up the marker window. Name the marker Dog Bark. Choose red for the color and click Done. The benefit of using a clip marker is that it stays pinned to the frame it was added, and it will travel with the clip. There's also one more selection of B-roll toward the end. I'll let you create a duration marker for that section. Markers can also be used for communicating with other creatives you'll be collaborating with. For example, you might add a marker that tells the effects artists working in the Fusion page what you would like done to the shot. Move the playhead over the old school bus shot. Press MM and name the marker. Weather Sign, Remove Vehicle, and click Done. In the lower left of the viewer, select Annotations from the menu. Drawing tools appear in the upper left. Click the squiggly line tool to draw a shape. I'll draw a circle around the sign. Then I'll select the arrow and point it at the modern-looking van in the lower left of the frame. If I move my playhead somewhere else, then return to that marker, you'll see both the annotation and the marker overlays with the instructions. Turn off the annotation tool by clicking on the tool. In the Sound Effects bin, locate the Desert Wind clip and double-click to load it into the source viewer. Because we're in single viewer mode, the waveform takes up the entire width of the UI, which is really great for locating the best part of the sound effect quickly. At the top of the clip is a full-length waveform of the entire clip. The white rectangle is the visible portion of the larger waveform below it. You can drag on this rectangle left or right to scrub the audio, listening for the best part of the sound. The waveform represents the sound's amplitude, and the areas in this clip with higher waveforms indicates louder sections of the wind. Let's scrub to roughly 7 seconds and play from there. That's a pretty good section. Scrub back to the same spot, then press I to mark an endpoint. We want the sound effect to be placed below these 3 B-roll clips. Because they've already been marked with the duration marker, we only need to convert the marker to in and out points. Right-click on the pink marker and choose Set In and Out from Duration Marker. When doing sound editing, organization is very important. You want to keep sounds that are similar in the same track. So tracks containing dialogue should only contain dialogue, and tracks with music should only contain music. We need to create a separate track for our sound effects. Right-click on the A2 label and choose Add Track, Stereo. An Audio 3 track is added below the Audio 2 track. Next, we need to patch this track so that our audio clip in the source viewer will be added to this track automatically. Drag the A1 destination control down to A3. This will align the A1 track of the source clip to the Audio 3 track in the timeline. To avoid the distraction of the dialogue and music track when working with our effects, click the M button on the track headers to mute them. Press F10 to overwrite the sound effect into the A3 track. Let's play it back. The volume is a bit too low. Let's bring it up a bit by dragging upward on the white volume line. When the tooltip reads -10 dB, release your mouse. The waveform reacts to the change, and when we play it back, the wind is much louder. Press Option X to clear the in and out points. Let's add the next sound effect. To jump your playhead to the next marker, hold down the Shift key and press the down arrow. Pressing the up arrow will jump to the previous marker. The marker overlay informs us that we need a little over 4 seconds of sound effect to cover this clip. Locate the car interior driving clip and double-click to open it in the viewer. Because this clip is one continuous sound with no fluctuations in volume, we could mark the clip just about anywhere. Mark your endpoint anywhere towards the head of the clip. Type out +6 return to move the playhead 6 seconds later. Then press O to mark an out point. I prefer making the sound effect a bit longer than the timeline marker range so we can add fades later on. Let's look at a really fast way to add a sound effect and create a new track at the same time. Drag the audio clip out of the viewer into the empty gray area directly below the A3 track. When you do this, Resolve will automatically create an A4 track for you. Align the right edge of the sound effect with the edit point of the 2 interview clips. The edge should snap to the edit point. If it doesn't, press the N key to enable snapping. Release your mouse. Even though we only have 4 audio tracks, it's always a good habit to name your tracks to keep things organized. Click on the name for Audio 1 and name it Dialogue. For Audio 2, name it Music. For Audio 3, name it BKG for Background. And for Audio 4, name it Wild Effects. You can also assign a color to a track. Right-click on the background track and choose Change Track Color, then choose a color from the list. Pick whatever color you want. I'll choose pink because it matches the B-roll clip color, and I prefer visual consistency. Keep in mind that if you have clip colors assigned, the clip color takes precedence over the track color. For example, if I assign an orange color to the V1 track, the only clips that will appear orange are the ones that did not have a clip color pre-assigned. In an earlier lesson, we assigned every clip a color, so we should not be seeing any orange clips. For A4, I'm going to assign the track an olive color. Let's move on to the clip of the boy and his dog. Make sure you're seeing the entire frame in the viewer by selecting Fit from the Zoom menu. We placed a clip marker where the dog appears to bark. Zoom in, then mark an in and out point around this clip. Locate the dog barks clip in the bin and double-click to load it into the viewer. Play it if you want, but it's clear from the waveform that it's a bunch of dog barks. Scrub until you locate the second isolated dog bark at 12 seconds and 15 frames. Park the playhead just before the bark. We're about to perform a replace edit. You'll recall from a previous lesson that a replace edit matches the relative locations of the playhead in the source viewer and the playhead in the timeline, then syncs those frames when you perform the edit. Target the A4 track by moving the destination control. Park your playhead over the marker. Click the Replace Edit button in the toolbar or press F11. Play that back. Well, that worked really well. By the way, if you find the sound effect isn't exactly where you want it, you can select the clip and press the period key to nudge the clip one frame forward and the comma key to nudge the clip one frame back. Let's try a replace edit again, but this time for the bark in the dog's close-up. Use the right arrow key to move the playhead one frame at a time, looking for the frame where the shot cuts to the close-up of the dog. Press I when you see it. Mark an out point at the end of the clip. Move your playhead over the frame where you see the dog bark. Perform a replace edit and play that back. As you learned earlier in this tutorial, clips that contain audio and video are linked together automatically in the timeline. This makes it easy to move or trim them so they always stay in sync. Clips that have a synced relationship appear with a link badge to the left of the clip name. With sound effects, there's no inherent linked relationship with the clips they are placed with. For example, we just synced two separate dog barks with this B-roll clip. But if we move the clip, the sound effects do not move with it. But we can create a sync relationship by linking them. In order to do that, you'll need to select them both, then right-click on one of them and choose New Compound Clip. Name the clip Dog Barks and click Create. Now we have one clip that contains both the dog barks. Hold down the Command key or Control key on Windows, then select the compound clip and the B-roll clip. From the clip menu, choose Link Clips. You'll now see a link icon for both the video and the compound clip. So when you move the clip, it now moves and trims as a unit. So we still have this B-roll section over here that needs some background sound effects. Because this section is visually similar to the shots we used at the beginning of the timeline, we can reuse those sound effects. Press Shift-Z to zoom out. Move the blade to the first frame of the Packard sedan clip. Select the wind noise sound effect and press Command-C to copy it and Command-V to paste. The clip is pasted at the current playhead location in the same track it was copied from. If you wanted the clip to be pasted into a different track, you would use the Auto Select buttons to target the track. I'll disable the Auto Select buttons for A1, A2, and A3, move the playhead to the start of the shot, then paste again. This time, the clip lands on the A4 track, inheriting its track color. Let's delete that copy. If you compare the waveforms for each clip, it's clear we're using the same section of the wind sound. To use a different section, press T to call up the trim tool, then drag left or right looking for another part of the sound to use. The white rectangle indicates the handle frames of the clip as you drag. Turn off muting for the dialogue and music tracks. In the next lesson, you'll learn how to monitor your mix in preparation for setting the proper volume levels for all your tracks.